the next is Mr. Elsier.
Okay, to answer the question directly, one of my 10 guiding principles, and they're over there, the gold flyer, but principle number 8, collaboration is emphasized. Taxpayers, parents, teachers should be a part of our decision-making process. So that I firmly believe in. It kind of goes without saying that I would make myself available, approachable, through email, telephone, etc. But more importantly, reaching out. There's many groups. The PTOs are a great group to collaborate with and find out what's going on in the schools. What are the students saying? What's happening? Obviously the teachers, as I mentioned. The Community for United Boyertown, reaching out to them as well. And a couple thoughts I have. One would be to have a monthly session. In this case tonight, it's kind of like meet the candidates. While here, you know, talk to the school board member, or at least talk to me and certainly anyone else. Maybe we, you know, have a group and have a meeting. Just, hey, what's happening? What's on your mind? In the world we have today, the electronic world, a survey. Why not have a web-based annual survey? Give us your opinion on the school district, 10 or 20 questions, short and sweet, an area for comments, and we can roll all that up and get an idea on the pulse of the community. So those are ideas I have as far as collaboration. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Parsons.
Well, I'm glad to see everybody here out tonight, although I do wish there was more people here than we're currently seeing in this room tonight. We definitely need more involvement from the community, there's no doubt about it. I've been guilty in the past. I only come out when stuff that affects me gets my, you know, gumption up to get me out here. We need to change that. We do need to be more involved as a community. We need to be more supportive of this school district, because in the future things are going to get a lot tougher and we're going to be faced with some challenges with the budgets over the next few years that are not going to be very easily pushed away. I believe that the school board needs to be more transparent to our community, not just in the meetings but with information. The task forces that have been formed for the budget, I think, are a great idea. We need to expound on that and definitely involve that in many more situations that come up with the board. And I think that every board member needs to put themselves out there and be available for questions from the community, whether it be through, you know, getting your phone number, your address, your email, and everything out there, and just trying to put as much time into it as you can. You can't be expected to be there all the time. We all have jobs, we all have lives and stuff, but I know for me, I will put every available hour that I can in meeting with the public and talking to you about your concerns. The school district is the most important thing in our lives. Even if you do not have children in the schools, we need to educate these children because it makes for a better America. But we have to do it at a reasonable expense.
Okay, that completes that segment. We'll now be taking some questions from the audience. There may be some redundancies, but hopefully if the candidates touched on some of these issues before, they can either reiterate or come up with some additional comment. Now, a reminder, rather than 2 minutes, for all of these questions from here on out, you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds. 1 minute and 30 seconds. The first question is, how do you feel about a student representative being part of the school board? Again, how do you feel about a student representative being part of the school board? And we will begin with Mr. Nichols.
This has been brought up for discussion before, and we never acted on it. I think we wondered about how we would pick this and then a student. I think it's interesting. I think after all, we are representing all of them. I think one of them could be a representative with us. And like I said, we've talked about it before. I don't know really what the particulars would be. You know, things like this get pretty sensitive. I just think that, you know, I guess we haven't really come to any really conclusions on it. I wouldn't know what to add to that. Thank you.
Mr. Christopher.
Okay, I think I would encourage it, but at the same time, there has to be some discussion as to, again, as Mr. Nichols alluded to, how that would be done. One of the things could be, well, who's president of the student organization? That person could be the representative on the board. I think it needs to be very clear from the beginning how that person will be selected. It does make sense, because this body, of which I'm attempting to be successful as a candidate, will make decisions affecting 7,000 children. And so it would make sense to have someone that at least has an ear or has our ear on the board. I just think. But then it also has to be decided how that information is going to get back. What's going to happen to that information? So they're at the board meeting and they're part of this. Are they going to get information from the students to bring to the board as well? So I think there has to be a couple things accomplished before that probably can be successful.
Mrs. Savage.
This one's near and dear to my heart. When I joined the board, I put it on my to-do list. I brought it up. We did discuss it in policy committee. We researched what other schools do. Most other schools in Pennsylvania do have a student rep or two on their board. They're not usually voting members. They're members that are there to share the student perspective, which I think is extremely important. So this time around, our board couldn't really come to agreement on what should be in that policy and procedure, but it certainly is on my personal to-do list to continue to bring up until we get one.
Mr. Alcier.
As far as a student representative, I would absolutely welcome that. The question I would have is one enough? And I would encourage that that's a tall order for one student to represent 7,000 children from all the various schools and levels, elementary, etc. You know, we have some student council reps, things like that maybe are already in place that we could somehow involve. But I would welcome more than one. So I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure we get elected, we can figure that out and make it work. Absolutely. I think it'd be great.
Mr. Parsons.
I'm definitely for the idea. I think a student representative is a good idea. It would empower the kids. It would definitely make them feel like they were involved, because I think in so many ways they don't think they were involved and they don't have a choice in all of this. Whether it be a voting member or not, I think that's a decision the board would have to make. The idea of more than one is a possibility, but I think also there could be a sub-council of kids that meet and then pass on that information to one individual that sits on the board. It's a good idea. I really do think the kids should be empowered and they should feel like they're part of the process.
Mrs. Hartford.
I believe Mrs. Savage gave me the wrap-up of where we were as a school board and looking at a student representative. I've been on the side of supporting Mrs. Savage and wanting a student representative on the board. I think it would be a good interaction between our high school students and having them relate to actually what goes on in board meetings and feel like they're a part of that process in presenting a student view. So yes, I would look forward to having a student representative.
Next question. How will you prioritize what to keep and what to cut when budget cuts are necessary? How will you prioritize what to keep and what to cut when budget cuts are necessary? First up is Mr. Christman.
Actually, I think this is the easiest question for me other than my background. And that is, how does it affect student learning? How does it affect our students? And for me, student learning is not just their academics. My boys were involved in the sports. I had one, Mr. Kershetsky. I still say he gave him an extra vocal cord to make him think like he could sing, because he was part of the Wizard of Oz. He was a munchkin and some other. But my point is, it needs to not affect student learning. If it doesn't affect student learning, put it on the table. I want to see it, because maybe that can be eliminated. But that's the bottom line for me, is the students learning, because in those extracurricular things, they learn leadership, they learn teamwork, they learn a lot of things from that coach or from those people that are working with them. And so I want our kids, mine had that opportunity, so I want yours, my grandchildren, I hope, will have that opportunity in another, wherever they live. Okay.
Mrs. Savage.
I think I'm going to say the same thing as Ron, but in different language, because this is where I can bring some of my business experience to the table. When you think about budgets and cutting in any industry, you think about who your customer is. That's very clear here, that's the students. Then you think about what is most important for the success of those customers, for you to succeed with those customers. And you develop a set of criteria. And then with all your brainstorming, you can measure or score all of those ideas. And you start cutting farthest away from your customers. Some of the ways that you can do that, you can think about what the core competencies are that enable us to be successful with our students, such as, an excellent teaching staff. If we don't have that, our students aren't going to succeed. This diverse offerings that we have for our students, again, if we don't have that, we're not going to succeed. So once you identify your core competencies, then you can look at all of the areas in the school district that are not those core competencies and really think about, do we really need to do all of this? Could we do less? Could someone else do it? And there's a lot of options out there, and they're not easy choices either, but you really have to keep it far from the students.
Mr. Elsier.
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate to say ditto here, quite honestly. So, again, having been in the retail business, and I've been through cuts, and I was divisional office, which was quite far from our customers, and I got cut. I was fortunate enough to land back closer to the customers. So that's it in a nutshell. You cut furthest away from the students. You look at how many are impacted, what would it do to their learning. It's unfortunate that there's some cuts on the table right now that, they shouldn't be, but they are. And it is what it is at this point, and hopefully scenario 4 will carry through. But that should be the guiding light right there is, when it affects the students, shouldn't even make it to the table.